Thanks for joining me for the second episode of the Kong Dynasty. In this episode, I assemble a 5x9 Gorilla Grow tent. In all the videos I watched of these gorilla tents going up, it seemed like a much easier process. I started to realize that being space limited and trying to work in a corner was really going to be the sticking point. In all of the example videos I watched on YouTube, it seemed like they were being set up in a warehouse space that had probably double the amount of space of the actual tent. So following the instructions about laying the whole thing out flat and just folding the sides up and everything else, I'm sure is really easy when you have enough room to work with, but working in a corner, it's kind of tricky. I ended up having to kind of crawl in there and just fold things over and try to wedge the original frame kind of into each corner, and then kind of fold things and flop them over from there, and then start putting in vertical posts. The tent material itself was really sturdy. All the zippers, everything else, Velcro, everything seemed to be really well made, really well put together in comparison to some of the Mars Hydro tents that I have and put together. I mean, I can't say that putting it up was any easier. It was still kind of that same deal where you feel like you're literally inside a camping tent trying to put posts in and do all that kind of thing. But overall, it seemed like the actual tent material was probably a higher quality than anything else I've been used to in the past. The tent poles themselves are pretty standard, very similar to the ones that came with the Mars tents. The only difference just with the extension going up is there was more posts to put up. Putting the roof itself on was a whole nother story. Smarter people probably have friends that come over and help with that part of the process, but I ended up just having to tackle that by myself. It wasn't any worse than drywalling a ceiling by yourself. If you ever put sheetrock up on a ceiling, it felt similar to that, just sort of propping everything up on the ladder and trying to wedge it between the wall and the posts, and then just kind of throwing it all over the top and inching it over little by little. In the end, it was pretty successful. I had to move the ladder a couple times and get into a couple hairy situations of reaching a little further than I'd like. But once the roof was on, everything else came together pretty quick. The next step was to try to put on the transition piece that links the walls to the roof. I found out pretty quick that you can put this on upside down, so I got partway through and realized I had to take it off and flip it around. There's some Velcro pieces that are probably the easier guide. I think at that point I had sort of ditched the instructions, so maybe I could have saved myself some time and trouble if I had read those a little closer. But I also realized if I sort of did a little dry layout and then continued on with zipping the piece up and sort of met in the middle, it went up, way easier. I've never put up such a large tent before either, so there were some challenges. There was sort of a learning curve there, but putting together sort of a two-piece wall system was pretty unique. In doing so, you start realizing how much they've really thought this whole thing through. Once you're doing things in the right order, you realize, like, wow, this company really knows what they're doing. There's a reason for just about everything. It seems like the layout is very deliberate. In the third episode of the Kong Dynasty, I'll be assembling an aluminum framework for 2 300-watt timber grow light kits. Hope you join me for that. Thanks for watching.